Hey y'all, welcome to Camira's Kitchen. Today we are making a warm and comforting beef and vegetable soup. This is like that old school beef soup that just make you want to get a grilled cheese sandwich and just throw down, baby. Now the ingredients for this are very simple, all right? I am going to be using ground beef today. And this is an organic beef. It's a little bit leaner. I'm also going to be using some mixed vegetables, a couple of different spices here. I love this roasted garlic and herb, Creole seasoning, bouillon, some Worcester sauce. That's what I'm calling it. Don't say nothing to me about it. All right. Olive oil, crushed tomatoes. Of course, we have our trinity of onions, celery, and carrots. Okay, or maybe I should say a mirepoix if it has a carrot in it, but I do have some peppers as well. I am using lots of fresh herbs. Rosemary, thyme, and oregano are going to brighten everything up. Cornstarch is going to add a little bit of body and thickness. You could also use tomato paste to do that, about a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half, but honey, I didn't have that in my house and I'm about to go out and get none, okay? So I have some white pepper, dried thyme, and dried onion, and I'm also going to use 2 potatoes. I like the red potato because they hold their shape a little bit better. To get started, I have a 5-quart Dutch oven. It's been heating over medium heat. You want to bring that pan up to temperature before you put your meat in. Now I have a special way of dropping in the meat. I'm going to put it in, but I am going to leave it in chunks and I'm not going to break it up. I'm going to just let it sit and cook because I actually want bigger pieces in my soup instead of like little crumbles of ground beef. Now these potatoes I didn't have for a minute. All right, they had for a minute. I'm going to just tell y'all that right now. But waste not, want not. Okay, so I'm just going to cut off all the pieces that are bad, and then I'm going to just cut them into about 1-inch chunks and put them in a bowl of water. I'm going to let them sit there until I'm ready to use them so that they won't turn brown. My prep for my carrots is super simple. I'm going to cut my carrot in half. I will cut it in half again, and then I'm just going to cut it into some thick rounds. I don't want it to be too small because I don't want my carrots to get mushy. Now it has been about 7 minutes and now I'm going to gently start turning my beef. As you can see, there's still some chunks in there. That's what you want, okay? Just trust me on this one. There's not a lot of oil, but I'm still not going to add any additional fat, and I'm also not going to drain the fat because there's not a ton of grease. Now, if you up here using that 70-30 beef, you're going to have to drain some grease, okay? But I don't tend to use that fatty ground beef. I'm now going to add my mirepoix, my carrot, my onion, and my celery, and I am going to start to saute this. I'm going to allow this to cook for about 3 minutes, and then I'm going to add a little bit of Creole seasoning. This is basically like seasoned salt. I'm then going to add a generous amount of beef bouillon. I ended up using about 2 tablespoons in this whole recipe, but I'll be honest with y'all, I didn't measure. I use this because I don't use beef broth. If you're using beef broth, then I would use maybe just 2 teaspoons of bouillon. I have half of a red pepper that I diced up. I put in a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and about a teaspoon of minced onion. I'm then going to put in a teaspoon of this garlic and herb seasoning, as well as 3 cloves of garlic. If you're a garlic lover like me, this will be perfect. If you're not, I don't know what to tell you, okay? I'm then adding in a tablespoon of cornstarch. I like to mix it in with my beef. That way it's not going to clump up or anything like that. If you're using tomato paste, you could also use that instead. I have a 28-ounce can of crushed tomato, and then I'm going to add some water. I have already boiled the water in the kettle so that it's not going to change the temperature of my dish. I'm putting in all my fresh herbs as well as a bay leaf. I'm going to mix this together and I'm going to allow this to simmer for about 30 minutes on medium low. I let this simmer covered until it starts to get to a boil, and then I cover this part of the way. Okay, I want some of the steam to escape. I don't really mind if it gets a little bit thicker. Now it's been 30 minutes and I tasted it and I feel like it needs a little bit more bouillon. Guys, y'all got to do this a taste. If you scared of the MSG, baby, you'd have lived through COVID. You be all right. Okay, that's all I got to say. Now I'm going to add in my potatoes. I don't add in the potatoes and the frozen vegetables from the jump because if you do that, Honey, them potatoes just going to dissolve, okay? Like some of y'all bank accounts be dissolving because y'all be spending too much. Baby, them potatoes will dissolve. Now, I'm going to add some of that W sauce, and I'm going to add about a teaspoon of sugar just to balance out the flavors. I'm going to let this simmer on low for about 20 minutes. That's about how long it's going to take for the potatoes to get soft. Now, what are you going to serve with this beef and potato soup? Honey, I had this with some grilled cheese. You could even put some croutons on it, baby. You would just be bumping. All right. Honey, you know I love you and Jesus loves you. And I'll see you next time in Camirra's Kitchen. Goodbye.